Chapter 64-69. When Xiren's face stiffens, fuck. You actually want to stab me in the heart. Beichen, I can't take it anymore, I want to cut ties with Yunjue. He's discriminating against me. When Xiren looks at D. Beichen with tears streaming down his face, as if Mo Yunjue has snatched away his beloved woman. However, Shengguan Yingying's face is numb. This guy has been with D. Beichen for so long, yet he still doesn't have enough recognition of his own face. D. Beichen raises his eyebrows like smoke, his eyes as calm as water. He might also want to cut ties with you. I can't live like this anymore. After I finish this meal, I'll part ways with you guys. Master's decision was indeed correct. A clear stream like me can't wallow in the mire with you guys, lest I'm polluted by you. Bailey Hongzhuang shakes her head and sighs. As expected, looks are Xiren's life's pain. Actually, Xiren also has sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes and a dignified appearance. Unfortunately, he has 3 evildoers by his side. She doesn't know if this should be considered fortunate or unfortunate. Bailey Hongzhuang beckons the waiter over and asks, "Do you know who those 3 girls are?" Although the incident just now was a bit sudden, and those 3 girls didn't make a move, they still offended them. Before the other party comes knocking on their door, they have to figure out the other party's identity. They're from the Demon Immortal sect. Demon Immortal sect? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes faintly raise, her flower-like face carries a trace of contemplation. That's a sect. The Demon Immortal sect is a power in our Cloud Division city. They, cough. The waiter scratches his head a bit embarrassedly. It's really too embarrassing to talk about this in front of a girl, especially in front of a beauty that can topple cities. What's wrong? Bailey Hongzhuang's brows reveal a trace of worry. Could it be that this Demon Immortal sect is very difficult to deal with? D. Beichen's gaze also falls on the waiter. There's no harm in saying it. They're walking the path of dual cultivation. As soon as he said this, D. Beichen and Mo Yunjue by Li Yanche, and when Xiren's expressions all became very interesting. So, the purpose of those 3 women flirting with them just now was for this? The boss of the Demon Immortal sect only likes good-looking men. Therefore, when they saw that you young masters had extraordinary looks, they must have had this thought. The waiter was a little embarrassed and added, "Actually, many men are very happy to contact them." Zhong Limu was completely dumbfounded. He never thought that the world outside the abandoned immortal forest would be like this. Mo Yunjue looked at the dazed Zhong Limu and reminded him, "Children should listen to healthy content." Zhong Limu, "Big brother, you were almost caught for dual cultivation." Shengguan Yingying put her hands on her hips, her eyes flashing with a cold light. "You seem to want to leave with them?" Xiren shuddered and instinctively felt threatened. He quickly waved his hands and said seriously, No. You must have seen wrongly. My feelings for you can be seen by the sun and moon. In this world apart from you, I don't like anyone else. How could I like that old woman?" The surrounding people looked at Xiren speechlessly. You can even say such things that go against your conscience. It can be said that your desire to live is very strong. Bailey Hongzhuang sped up her eating speed and picked up all the food in D. Beichen's bowl. "Beichen, hurry up and eat. Once you're done, we'll leave." Chapter 64-70. That won't do. Bailey Hongzhuang refused in all seriousness. Why? A trace of puzzlement flitted across his deep eyes. Seeing the anxiety on the woman's delicate face, D. Beichen's magnetic voice also carried a trace of concern. Bailey Hongzhuang's glass-like eyes revealed an unprecedented seriousness. "Beichen, they want to capture you and take you back to be their mistress." D. Beichen. "Mistress of the fort? You're so good-looking, I think they definitely won't give up. Who knows, they might even bring someone back right away. Since the boss of the Demon Immortal sect is searching everywhere for handsome men, you can imagine their temperament. I can't let them snatch you away." Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice. If it were any other day, losing wouldn't be a big deal. But right now she couldn't. Once she lost, wouldn't it be terrible if Beichen was captured and taken away to be their mistress? She wasn't willing to take this kind of risk that obviously wasn't worth it. Hee. D. Beichen suddenly chuckled. His eyes were filled with laughter, and it was as if there were thousands of flowers blooming in the depths of his eyes. The indulgence in his eyes grew deeper and deeper. The normally fearless Hongzhuang actually had a time when she was worried. And what she was worried about was this kind of problem. "Don't worry. Unless you become the fort's chief, I can't possibly be your mistress." The man's chuckle was filled with endless charm. Set off by his perfect face, it was truly dazzling and mesmerizing, making people forget to breathe. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look at the man in front of her who was laughing so casually and ostentatiously. She noticed that the entire hall was dumbstruck, and the women's eyes were filled with love. She immediately ate even faster. Such a good-looking man, if the women of the Demon Immortal sect took a fancy to him, wouldn't they pester him to death? Someone like her who was carrying such a great treasure had to hurry and take him away. After putting down the bowl and chopsticks, Bailey Hongzhuang pulled Di Beichen's hand and prepared to leave. This place was too dangerous. It was better to go further away. Before she left, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks and looked at the people who were still eating. Linger, look after Yanche. Zhongli, look after Yunju. Don't let them be taken away by the Demon Immortal sect. Pooh. When Xiren couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of rice. So, just how perverted was the boss of the Demon Immortal sect? Wasn't it a little too exaggerated to let her subordinates come out to snatch a man in broad daylight? However, that was not the main point. When Xiren stood up and said, "Why don't you let Yingying look after me?" Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Wen Xiren. "You're safer. Don't worry for now." Xiren? How could he live like this? Completely ignoring Xiren's shattered heart, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen turned and left the restaurant. Walking on the streets of the realm of chaos, many people curiously sized up Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a good-looking couple was really too rare. Just looking at them was pleasing to the eye. "Beichen, where are we going next?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen with a faint smile on her charming face. They were quite a distance away from the restaurant. They shouldn't be here for a while. Since they were here to train, they had to find a place to stay. Besides, they didn't know enough about the situation in the realm of chaos. Chapter 64-71. Sure. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. They had just arrived in the realm of chaotic immortal, so they didn't know much about the situation here. However, since they had chosen to come here, they wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. It wasn't convenient for them to stay in a restaurant all day. Moreover, the prices of the restaurants here were sky-high. In the long run, it was naturally more appropriate to rent a room. Although the two of them were unfamiliar faces in the realm of chaotic immortal, because of their extraordinary auras, no one came to cause trouble for them. Almost everyone who lived here was a shrewd person. They could tell who could and couldn't attack based on their auras and other aspects. Don't look at how the atmosphere between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang was like a spring breeze, but from their casual glances, it was clear that they were murderous like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. This kind of person. It was best not to act rashly before they knew more about him. After paying the rent, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with pain. In fact, they didn't have many blood spirit stones on them. Moreover, they needed them for their daily cultivation. Now that they had paid the rent, their wallets were basically empty. Although they still had a lot of devouring spirit stones, they were treasures even in the realm of chaotic immortal, let alone in the realm of chaotic immortal. Even if they only had 1 or 2 devouring spirit stones, it would attract a lot of attention. If they took out more than 10 devouring spirit stones, they would definitely be targeted. They had just arrived, so they didn't want to be the center of attention. "Beichen, I think we should go to the elixir store and sell some blood spirit stones. That way we'll have more money on hand." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at him. No matter the time and place, elixirs were extremely tempting to cultivators. She had refined these elixirs when she was practicing in the abandoned immortal forest. There were quite a lot of them, and most of them weren't useful to them at the moment. Thinking about it, if they sold these elixirs, they should be able to get a lot of blood spirit stones. Also, I want to buy an immortal pill furnace. Her previous pill furnace was no longer suitable in the realm of chaotic immortals. This was because the fire required to refine immortal spirit herbs was much stronger, and the pill furnaces in the upper realm couldn't handle it. When she was in the abandoned immortal forest, she had always used her mother-in-law's immortal pill furnace to refine pills. Originally, Granny had planned to give her the celestial pill furnace, but she had rejected it. Granny rarely went to the celestial realm, and it would be inconvenient if she didn't have this celestial pill furnace. Now that she was in the realm of chaotic immortal, she only needed to buy one. "Alright, I'll listen to you." Bailey Hongzhuang looked up and saw Di Beichen's doting smile. Her heart immediately warmed. Perhaps it was because the two of them had not been alone for a long time. Although the two of them were together in the abandoned immortal forest, they were busy studying every night. By the time they were done, they were already exhausted. Now that they were out like this, they actually regained the feeling of a newlywed couple traveling outside. "Let's go then." Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and was about to leave when Di Beichen pulled her back. Di Beichen's slender, almost translucent fingers lifted her chin. The faint smell of bamboo refreshed her mind, and a shadow shrouded her. The next second, a lingering kiss covered her lips. Ugh. Chapter 64-72. Di Baichen only let go of Bailey Hongzhuang when the air in his chest was running out. The man's deep eyes were filled with desire. The woman's faint scent wafted into his nostrils like an aphrodisiac, exuding a deadly charm. Even though they were separated by clothes, he could feel her warmth. It was as if a flame had ignited his body and he could not help but feel hot. His gaze landed on her fair and translucent neck. Her fair skin was like a piece of jade surrounded by an alluring luster. His fingers could not help but caress her smooth and tender neck. The soft and warm touch ignited a flame in his heart. The man's hand seemed to have magical powers. Just by touching her skin, her body could not help but tremble. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her eyes. Because of the lingering kiss, her black and white eyes had a trace of confusion. It was like a wisp of mist lingering around her, but it exuded a seductive aura. It was just a look, but it instantly tore the thread in the man's heart. In the next moment, Di Baichen lifted Bailey Hongzhuang up by the waist and walked towards the back. Bailey Hongzhuang gasped. Her mind was blank. Aren't we going out? We'll go later. The woman's ravishing face was reflected in the mirror. Her exquisite features were like a masterpiece meticulously crafted by the heavens. It was as if she was born to be favored by the heavens and all the beauty was given to her. However, the woman was panting with anger and furrowing her brows. She looked at the marks on her neck with dissatisfaction. It's all your fault. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Baichen. It was summer now and she was wearing thin clothes. There was nothing to cover her neck. How was she going to leave the house with these marks? Di Baichen's gaze landed on the red spots on the woman's fair neck. They were exuding an ambiguous aura. His gaze turned passionate again. Why not? Why not? Of course not. Look at me now. How am I supposed to go out? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen angrily. The kiss mark was on her neck, so of course he didn't care. It's normal for a married woman. Di Baichen's expression was calm, and there was not the slightest bit of guilt on his handsome face. It was as if this was extremely normal, but in the depths of his unfathomable handsome eyes, he could not help but smile a little. This is not fair. Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her arms and looked at Di Baichen angrily. Does this guy even understand what I'm angry about? In the next moment, Di Baichen suddenly pulled open the shirt on his chest, revealing his lustrous skin and sexy and enchanting collarbone. Gulp. Bailey Hongzhuang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. She had to say, with such a perfect body and that enchanting face, the temptation was simply impeccable. Ah. What are you doing? Isn't it unfair? Di Baichen raised his eyebrows, and his thin lips curved into a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. Thinking back to what they had just said, because she said it was unfair, so in order to be fair he also let her leave a mark? That was true. But why did she feel that if she did that, she would be the one losing face? If she went out like this, what would others think of her? Her pretty face was filled with embarrassment. Bailey Hongzhuang closed Di Baichen's shirt, but before she closed it, she couldn't help but touch it. Felt so good. Chapter 64-73. Bailey Hongzhuang fiddled with it for a long time before she managed to cover up the mark on her neck with a disguise technique. Ever since she'd learned that ordinary disguises were useless in the immortal region, she hadn't prepared anything like this. Who would have thought that she'd end up using it to cover up this mark? Walking on the streets of Xi'an City, the city at night was less scorching than it was during the day. Instead, it was a little cooler. The dim yellow light emitted a bit of warmth in the pitch-black night, as if the entire city had become quiet and peaceful. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze scanned the two sides of the street. Xi'an City was very large. Even though they'd already wandered around during the day, they'd only walked a short distance. No matter where they were, pill shops were bound to exist. It was just that they didn't know their exact location. Wanbao Pavilion. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up as she looked at the dazzling shop in front of her. This shop was several times the size of the other shops. Even at night, the lights illuminated the entire shop. At a glance, one could tell that the items here were definitely expensive. Di Baichen, let's go in and take a look? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes widened. Although she didn't know whether this place accepted pills or not, there was definitely an immortal pill furnace here. Now that they were outside, what she needed most was an immortal pill furnace. After all, without enough blood spirit stones, her cultivation speed would slow down. Di Baichen nodded slightly, then walked in while holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. As soon as the two of them appeared, the Wanbao Pavilion's attendant welcomed them with a wide smile. "What would the two of you like to see?" "I'd like to see an immortal pill furnace." Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the point. Thinking back to when she'd first seen Granny Hua's immortal pill furnace, she'd really liked it. If she could find one to her liking, that would be great. When he heard that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to see an immortal pill furnace, a trace of surprise appeared in the attendant's eyes. However, he quickly suppressed this trace of emotion. "The immortal pill furnace is over here. Please follow me." The attendant bent over and pointed to the front. Then he led the way inside. Bailey Hongzhuang followed closely behind. She looked around the Wanbao Pavilion. There were pills, weapons, armors, runes. Almost everything a cultivator needed was here. It was worthy of the name Wanbao Pavilion. Even if it was just a casual glance, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that the level of the things here was not bad. Soon, the attendant brought Bailey Hongzhuang to a shelf full of elixir furnaces. "Miss, take a look at the things here. Are you satisfied with them?" The attendant smiled with a hint of pride on his face. "Our Myriad Treasure Pavilion's products have always been outstanding. The materials and workmanship of these immortal pill furnaces are all top-notch. They will be handy when used to refine pills." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the immortal pill furnace in front of her. The immortal pill furnace was different from the one she usually used. The immortal pill furnace could change its size. Although the immortal pill furnace in front of her looked like it was only the size of a palm, as long as she injected her elemental energy into it, the immortal pill furnace would become normal. The quality of these pill furnaces looked very good. Although there was still a big gap between them and Granny Hua's immortal pill furnace, the immortal pill furnace in the hands of a powerhouse like Granny Hua must be extremely valuable. In her current situation, an ordinary immortal pill furnace was enough. Chapter 64-74. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes rested on an exquisite white immortal pill furnace. This immortal pill furnace could be said to be the best one on the shelf. Disregarding everything else, just the price alone was enough to show that. 100,000 blood spirit stones. This was not a price that ordinary people could afford. This unit of measurement was blood spirit stones, not ordinary spirit stones. However, most immortal medicine masters were very rich. Moreover, it was not easy to forge an elixir furnace. Naturally, it was much more expensive than weapons. Other than this elixir furnace, there were other elixir furnaces that cost 30,000, 50,000, and 70,000. There were all kinds of elixir furnaces. However, she had her eyes on this white elixir furnace. "If I want to buy this elixir furnace, can it be cheaper?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the attendant. 100,000 blood spirit stones. Even if they were selling elixirs, they would have to sell a lot of them. Now, not only did they want to buy an elixir furnace, but they also needed to change their weapons to immortal weapons. This was the time when they needed money. Naturally, they would save as much as possible. An apologetic look appeared on the attendant's face. "Miss, I'm really sorry. Our Wanbao Pavilion never gives discounts." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. In fact, she was just trying to ask, and the result was not beyond her expectations. "If you like it, then buy it." Di Baichen patted Bailey Hongzhuang's head. His smile was full of affection. He knew that Hongzhuang did not care about worldly things. However, elixir furnaces had always been her favorite. Naturally, she wanted to buy something like this. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes and looked at Di Baichen. After seeing the approval in his eyes, her eyes also burst into a smile. "May I ask if I can exchange elixirs for this elixir furnace?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the attendant. In fact, this kind of thing was not a problem in any shop. As expected, the attendant nodded. "That's not a problem. Only a small number of immortal medicine masters needed elixir furnaces. No one knew how long it would take to sell one. However, elixirs were different. Among all the varieties in the Wanbao Pavilion, elixirs sold the fastest. However, what kind of elixirs are you willing to exchange for 100,000 blood spirit stones?" A trace of hesitation appeared on the attendant's face. Elixirs were expensive, but compared to an elixir furnace, the difference was not small. Why buy an elixir furnace if you don't have the money? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to answer, a contemptuous and arrogant voice suddenly sounded from behind them. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's brows unconsciously wrinkled, a trace of displeasure flashing through her glass-like eyes. A yellow figure appeared next to Bailey Hongzhuang. The gorgeous yellow color was very eye-catching. The woman was tall and had a pretty face. However, there was a trace of arrogance in her eyes. At this moment she was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with disdain with her chin raised. That kind of disdain was not directed at a specific person. Instead it was the disdain of a snob. It was as if she was superior to others and looked down on all living things. I want this elixir furnace. Buy it for me. Miss Yun. The attendant immediately recognized the person when he saw him. His calm face was filled with respect and humility. 100,000 blood spirit stones, right? Yun Xiaoman's lips curled into a casual smile. This is what I want first. Chapter 6475. Unlike Yun Xiaoman's arrogance, her clear and cold voice was neither servile nor overbearing, but it contained a kind of unyielding spirit that couldn't be trampled on. Yun Xiaoman clearly didn't expect that this woman who couldn't even take out 100,000 blood spirit stones would actually dare to compete with her, and her face immediately darkened. You want to steal my things? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent, and the woman's gloomy face didn't affect her in the slightest. Do you have some kind of misunderstanding about the words my things? If I say it's my things, then it's my things. Do you know how many pills it takes to exchange for 100,000 blood spirit stones? With your poor appearance, do you think you can afford it? Yun Xiaoman disdainfully sized up Bailey Hongzhuang. Originally, she had only seen the woman's back and didn't take her seriously, but after seeing the woman raise her head, her expression unconsciously changed a bit. The woman in front of her was really too beautiful. Her white skin was so delicate that it could be broken by the wind, and her small face without any makeup was elegant and refined. Under her gentle and elegant willow leaf eyebrows were a pair of glass-like eyes, releasing a restrained light. Even though she was expressionless at this moment, she still exuded a soul-stirring beauty. People couldn't help but think that if she smiled, she would truly be a peerless beauty that could topple a city. You don't need to worry. Facing the woman's casual and neither servile nor overbearing appearance, a trace of jealousy appeared in Yun Xiaoman's eyes. If I say I want it, then what? Yun Xiaoman's voice was as cold as ice, and a strong sense of threat spread out. At this time Di Beichen, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened his mouth. Is this how 10,000 Treasures Pavilion does business? His voice was like 10,000-year-old ice that couldn't be melted, exuding a bone-chilling coldness and a terrifying pressure. The atmosphere in the room seemed to freeze in an instant. Di Beichen's gaze fell lightly on the attendant. It was clearly a calm and indifferent gaze, but the attendant felt as if he had been stared at by something terrifying. A terrifying chill ran from the soles of his feet to his heart, causing him to shiver. The attendant immediately recovered from his previous confusion and hurriedly said, Miss Yun, I'm really sorry. Our 10,000 Treasures Pavilion has always done business on a first-come, first-served basis. This immortal pill furnace was requested by this lady first. Unless this lady gives up, I can't sell it to you. Only then did Yun Xiaoman notice the man beside her. Facing that astonishing face, her eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of amazement. A godlike man. She had never known that a man could be so handsome, almost satisfying all the beautiful fantasies of a woman. His white brocade robe perfectly outlined his broad shoulders and slender waist. The golden outer garment added a trace of nobility and innate elegance. The man's immortal-like cold and incomparably beautiful face was perfect and impeccable. His entire body exuded a domineering aura that looked down on the world. Almost at the first moment, Yun Xiaoman's face flushed red. Her heart thumped, and she even regretted her actions just now. That arrogant appearance, she was afraid that it directly left a very bad impression in the man's heart. Young master, I am Yun Xiaoman, may I know young master's name? Chapter 6476. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly raised. She didn't expect that the originally arrogant and insufferably arrogant woman would suddenly turn into a little sheep. That flirtatious look in her eyes. What was she trying to do? Even if she was captivated by the beauty, to change her face so quickly. Didn't she think about the other party's feelings? Facing the woman's expectant gaze, Di Beichen's cold and indifferent face didn't have the slightest change in expression. His gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body as if from beginning to end, he only had eyes for Bailey Hongzhuang. You can ask my wife. The indifferent voice was as cold as water, without any ripples, but also revealed a kind of alienation in the bones. Yun Xiaoman was startled. Her face changed from the initial astonishment to disbelief. With difficulty and obscurity she said, Madam? That's right. These two simple words seemed to freeze Yun Xiaoman's palpitating heart. Immediately after, with a kacha sound, cracks appeared on her heart. Her gaze flickered between the man and woman in front of her. Especially after noticing the evil playfulness in the woman's eyes, she only felt a burst of shame. The feeling of shame and anger quickly swept through her heart. Yun Xiaoman had always had extremely high standards. To be able to catch her eye, a man should burn incense. However, the man in front of her completely ignored her existence. That rejection without the slightest hesitation was like a sharp knife piercing her heart. "Xiaoman, have you bought your immortal pill furnace?" At this time an arrogant voice came from outside. Then a dark red figure appeared beside Yun Xiaoman. After noticing the ugly face of the woman, his gaze also shifted to the white immortal pill furnace in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He remembered that Xiaoman had previously mentioned to him that she had taken a fancy to a white immortal pill furnace in the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. The pill furnaces on the shelves in front of him were quite colorful, but white. Only the one in the woman's hand. Almost immediately, he had already understood what had happened. His gaze slowly moved up the pill furnace, and when he saw the beautiful yet pure face, a strange light appeared in his eyes. Yun Xiaoman was already feeling very embarrassed and didn't know how to get out of this situation. After seeing the man appear, she instantly seemed to have found someone to rely on. "Brother Yi, they stole my immortal pill furnace." Hearing this, Guan Yi frowned. He had already guessed this point, but when Yun Xiaoman said it herself, his eyes became cold. Although the woman in front of him was beautiful, Yun Xiaoman was an immortal medicine master. Even in the entire Shiyun city she was very famous. There were very few immortal pharmacists in the first place. Most of the outstanding immortal pharmacists had gone to the immortal realms. Therefore, the immortal pharmacists in the realm of chaos were very popular. Between beauty and value, value was naturally more important. He slowly turned his gaze to Di Baichen. "I'll pay double the price and you'll give me my immortal pill furnace. How about that?" "Brother Yi, isn't double the price a bit too high?" Yun Xiaoman exclaimed. Although she was impressed by Guan Yi's generous methods, double the price was equivalent to 200,000 blood spirit stones. It was really too wasteful. Guan Yi flaunted himself with a smile. "As long as you like it, it's not a problem." Yun Xiaoman was slightly stunned. Then her eyes lit up. Chapter 64-77. "Brother Yi, you're so good." Yun Xiaoman's eyes blossomed with starry light, and the complacent expression on her face became even stronger. In the blink of an eye, she had already restored her previous arrogant and haughty appearance. For poor people like them, there's no need to double the price. As long as you give them a little bit, they'll immediately relent. Yun Xiaoman's gaze casually swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen's face. "Today you're lucky, why aren't you thanking my brother Yi?" After hearing these words, Guan Yi's gaze fell on the clean and flawless face of the woman in front of him, and his mind suddenly became lively again. It turned out to be two poor bastards. As long as he promised some conditions, would this beauty also become one of his people? As long as Yun Xiaoman doesn't know, enjoying this kind of beauty is every man's dream. Looking at the extremely arrogant face in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed a trace of a sneer. This woman's face-changing speed really makes people gasp in admiration, perfectly interpreting the word power incisively and vividly. At this time the voice from the side came from above. "Won't let." As always, words are like gold. The two indifferent words emitted an irresistible pressure. Di Baichen's deep eyes were as dark as the night. The things that Hongzhuang likes absolutely cannot be given to others. "Yo. What did you say?" Guan Yi stared blankly as if he couldn't believe that his proposal would actually be rejected. "Could it be that you're still not satisfied with this price and still want to open your lion's mouth?" Yun Xiaoman's voice also raised, becoming sharp and unkind. "Aren't you a bit too shameless? You've already taken such a big advantage and you're still not satisfied?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi as if looking at an idiot. How rich is their inner drama? Wrap it up. Di Baichen turned his line of sight to look at the waiter, and the posture of looking straight ahead clearly says that I don't want to pay attention to these two idiots. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips raised a trace of a smile, and holding the man's wide hand, she slowly walked in the direction of the counter. Seeing the two of them ignoring them like this, Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi's faces turned ashen. "Big brother Yi, they're just deliberately mystifying things. I clearly heard them saying that they wanted to use elixirs to exchange for this immortal pill furnace. Don't tell me they aren't two paupers?" Yun Xiaoman's face was filled with unwillingness. She simply did not believe that these two people would face so much money without batting an eyelid. In the end it was just to extort a little more from them. Guanyi was originally a little uncertain. After all, these two people seemed to have extraordinary bearings. Perhaps Xiaoman had made a mistake. If they were really poor, how could they ignore 100,000 blood spirit stones? Using pills to exchange for an immortal pill furnace? They were really poor. Come to think of it, this guy just wants to put on a strong front in front of a woman. Let's see how he's going to crush all of this. Brother E, let's go. Yun Xiaoman raised her head high like a proud peacock. I want to see what kind of pills they are going to use to exchange for it. Standing in front of the counter, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to take out the pills she had refined. The pills she had refined earlier were not of high grade, but the quantity was not small. However, she was not too sure about the price of these pills in the chaotic immortal realm, so she took out a few bottles of pills, wanting to inquire about the price of these pills. Chapter 64-78. How bad is the grade of these pills? Don't tell me you took out the pills from the next realm? Those kinds of pills in the chaotic immortal realm are all trash. The sharp voice was full of merciless ridicule and sneer. Yun Xiaoman leaned against the counter, and her pretty face looked like she was waiting to watch a good show. Want to pretend to have no money here? What a joke. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang take out so many pills, the attendant's face turned ugly. Just as Yun Xiaoman said, although the price of the pills was not as good as the immortal pill furnace, how bad is the grade of these pills to exchange for a few bottles? Miss, we only accept immortal spirit pills here. The attendant couldn't help but remind her. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care, the pills she took out were immortal spirit pills. Ordinary pills were what the cultivators in the lower realm needed. In the immortal realm they naturally had no use. I know. You know, and you still do this? Yun Xiaoman laughed, and the ridicule in her eyes became stronger. This woman is simply an idiot. Bailey Hongzhuang gradually frowned. She didn't want to argue with this idiot because arguing with this kind of idiot would only lower her IQ. However, this guy was really annoying when he didn't give up. What I do is my business, you don't need to worry about it. His ink-black phoenix eyes whistled through the wind and snow, like the extreme north, emitting boundless coldness. Just a glance was enough to make the coldness penetrate into the bone marrow. Yun Xiaoman's expression changed, and even the complacent expression on her face unconsciously froze. Under that kind of gaze, she unconsciously panicked for a moment. When she reacted again, her face became even uglier. Just as she was about to flare up again, Guanyi's casual words directly targeted Di Beichen. As a man, you actually want a woman to pay the bill, isn't it too shameful? It's better than using money to exchange. Di Beichen's eyes, which were as deep as the sea, did not have the slightest ripple, and his distant voice did not have the slightest hint of hostility. However, when Guanyi heard this, his expression suddenly turned ugly. What he meant was that the woman beside him had real feelings for him, and he was only using money to exchange for feelings. Obviously, there was nothing wrong with what he said, but Di Beichen's words made it seem like he was at a disadvantage. You can't give your woman what she wants, yet you're still acting so shamelessly here. Isn't that too laughable? Guanyi was obviously competing with Di Beichen, but he was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang from the corner of his eyes. He wanted to know if this beauty's mood had changed after hearing his words. She will leave you sooner or later. Hearing this, Di Beichen slowly lowered his eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Madam, will you leave me? Looking at that pair of dazzling eyes filled with stars, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth almost immediately opened into a bright and beautiful smile. I won't. The next second, Di Beichen lowered his head, and his thin lips covered that cherry-colored tender lips. Guanyi and Yun Xiaoman stared at the scene in front of them, simply could not believe that this was real. Their hearts received a critical hit. Di Beichen raised his eyes, his handsome face was as indifferent as ever. Just casually looking at Guanyi, he already won. Ew. Chapter 64-79. Simply have no sense of shame. Yun Xiaoman is simply going crazy. Looking at Di Beichen's gentle manner towards Bailey Hongzhuang, it stimulates her heart even more. This man is completely unmoved when facing her, but when he lowers his head to look at the woman beside him, the gentleness in his eyes is so thick that it can't be dispersed. Jealous? Dense jealousy burns in her heart. Even if the other party is a poor ghost, but she has to admit that she is indeed somewhat jealous of this woman. Just now I don't know who was the one who wanted to throw herself at him, wanted to be the second wife but was rejected. Now you're blaming me, the first wife? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckles, her phoenix eyes full of disdain. Yun Xiaoman's face turns pale, Her gaze unconsciously looks towards Guan Yi. She doesn't want Guan Yi to know this. But looking at Guan Yi's gloomy face, she knows that Guan Yi must have believed her. Brother Yi, don't listen to her nonsense. Yun Xiaoman quickly says. The man in front of her is already impossible. She can't lose Guan Yi, otherwise wouldn't she be drawing water with a bamboo basket? Just as Guan Yi unwillingly prepares to open his mouth again, he sees Di Beichen wave his hand and dozens of immortal talismans appear on the counter. Exchange for this immortal pill furnace. What do you need? You choose. Looking at the pile of immortal talismans in front of him, the attendant is completely dumbfounded. Immortal talismans have always been very useful for cultivators. But immortal talisman masters have always been extremely rare, much rarer than alchemists. Because in the lower planes, the inheritance of talisman techniques is often broken, and the people who master talisman techniques are only a minority. Adding on the fact that talisman techniques are obscure and difficult to understand, many people who have cultivated to this realm are not willing to spend time and effort to study it. Therefore, the price of immortal talismans is higher than pills. Their Thousand Treasures Pavilion also sells immortal talismans, but compared to pills, the number and types of immortal talismans are much less. However, the man in front of them casually took out dozens of immortal talismans. Who knows how many he didn't take out? How extravagant is this? Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi are also completely dumbfounded. Didn't he say he has no money? Why does he have so many immortal talismans have no money? Was he purposely teasing them? Even though the price of an immortal talisman was not as high as an immortal pill furnace, the price of any immortal talisman was in the tens of thousands. Most importantly, these immortal talismans seemed to be of decent quality. The attendant had stayed in the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion for a long time. Even if he didn't know anything about runes, he could identify them very quickly. Soon he picked out 2 immortal talismans and placed the rest in front of Di Beichen. He no longer looked down on Di Beichen and said flatteringly, "Young master, these 2 are enough." Guan Yi's expression turned even uglier. 100,000 blood spirit stones for only 2 celestial talismans was enough to show how high the grade of these celestial talismans was. The Xiao Bai face whom he had mocked for being poor for half a day, was actually so rich. For a moment he only felt a burning pain on his face. Di Beichen casually put away the remaining immortal talismans. He had been studying the art of runes all this time. With the guidance of his master, his attainments in the art of runes had improved rapidly. Chapter 6480. Yun Xiaoman looks at Bailey Hongzhuang with an increasingly angry gaze. These 2 guys are doing this on purpose. They clearly have so many immortal talismans, yet they deliberately took out those kind of pills. Isn't it just to make them lose face? You really know how to act. You actually took out those ordinary pills. This is the first time I've seen a woman who can act like you. Yun Xiaoman fiercely looks at Bailey Hongzhuang. Anger surges in her heart and a thick sense of humiliation surges in her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang looks at Yun Xiaoman like she's looking at an idiot. In front of this kind of guy, does she even need to act? What does it have to do with you? Her cold voice is as cold as ever. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly takes back the pills. Although she doesn't know the price of these pills, but just these immortal talismans are enough for their daily cultivation needs of blood spirit stones. After being humiliated time and time again, Yun Xiaoman is already unable to restrain her anger. Now that she's being despised by Bailey Hongzhuang, the anger in her heart bursts out even more. I actually want to see what kind of trash pills you have. Xiaoman. Guan Yi also didn't expect Yun Xiaoman to suddenly make such an outrageous move. Just as he opens his mouth, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have time to put away one of the pill bottles is directly waved over by Yun Xiaoman's hand. Round pills roll out from the white porcelain bottle, emitting a tempting fragrance. Whether it's Yun Xiaoman, Guan Yi or that attendant, none of them put Bailey Hongzhuang's pills in their heart. In their view, these pills must be useless trash. Only, when they clearly see the appearance of the pills, everyone's expression can't help but change. Third grade immortal spirit pills? Yun Xiaoman stares blankly at the pills rolling out. The grade of immortal spirit pills is very easy to judge. Even if one isn't an immortal alchemist, one only needs to clearly see the patterns on the immortal spirit pills to know the grade of the pills. She doesn't know what kind of pills these are, but each pill has 3 patterns on it. Guan Yi is also stunned. Just now there were dozens of immortal talismans, now there are dozens of immortal spirit pills. This is going against the heavens. Was this the poor guy that Yun Xiaoman spoke of? If they could be called poor, then they were probably poor to death, right? After all, This was only one bottle of pills in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Judging from the situation she took out just now, there were many bottles. The waiter's expression was petrified. He didn't know what to say, nor did he know what expression he should use to face all of this. Recalling the scene of Bailey Hongzhuang haggling with him, the corners of his lips couldn't help but twitch. Was he deliberately teasing him? The most important thing was, he had really believed it before. Miss, you knocked down so many of my immortal pills. Are you going to compensate me? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her ink-black phoenix eyes revealed a trace of coldness. This woman was simply too troublesome. Yun Xiaoman's expression stiffened. With just a glance she could tell that there were more than a dozen pills. More than a dozen third-grade immortal pills. This value? I was just careless and accidentally touched it. Yun Xiaoman raised her head. Although it was a matter of course tone, it inexplicably revealed a bit of guilt. More than a dozen third-grade immortal spirit pills? If she were to compensate, then she would become a pauper. Bailey Hongzhuang lazily glanced at Yun Xiaoman, too lazy to bicker with her. This kind of person she had seen too many. Chapter 6481. Yun Xiaoman was originally on guard against Bailey Hongzhuang asking for too much. Seeing that the other party didn't say much, she was relieved. But looking at the other party's appearance of being too lazy to pay attention to her, as if she was a clown from the beginning to the end, her heart felt even more uncomfortable. If the other party directly jumped up to compete with her, she would feel better. However, the other party's casual and indifferent appearance made her even more beautiful and elegant like a lotus. Brother Yi, Yun Xiaoman turned her head to look at Guan Yi. She didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to buy the alchemy furnace like this, but she couldn't think of any other way. Isn't the shopkeeper of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion your uncle? He's so good to you, you just need to tell him that you don't want to sell this alchemy furnace. Hearing this, a trace of hesitation appeared in Guan Yi's eyes. My uncle is really good to me but he's not here at all. It's too late for us to go invite him now. He also didn't want Di Beichen to leave like this, and he also understood that if he asked his uncle to do so, his uncle would definitely agree. However, as a nephew he didn't want to affect his uncle's business. However, Yun Xiaoman was very dissatisfied. So what? As long as you give the order directly, do you think they would dare to disobey your orders? Xiaoman? Guan Yi frowned slightly. He also came to Shiyun City not long ago. Ever since he came, his uncle has been taking care of him in every way possible, so he has always made up his mind to not cause trouble for his uncle. If he did this today he didn't know how to explain it. At this moment, a middle-aged man slowly walked in from outside. After seeing Guan Yi, the man's face suddenly revealed a smile. Why are you here today? Xiaoman is also here. Uncle. Guan Yi's face revealed a trace of a smile. After seeing the middle-aged man come, Yun Xiaoman's eyes lit up, and a thick excitement appeared on her face. Just as she was thinking, the shopkeeper came. Didn't this mean that even the heavens were helping her? Thinking of this, Yun Xiaoman quickly restrained her original excitement and turned it into a kind of sadness and loss. Noticing Yun Xiaoman's expression, the man couldn't help but frown and asked with concern. Xiaoman, could it be that something happened? Did he bully you? It's not like that. Yun Xiaoman hurriedly shook her head. Brother Yi has always been very good to me. It's just that I recently managed to save enough money to buy this immortal pill furnace. I never thought that someone else would take a step ahead of me. I'm just a little disappointed. As she spoke, Yun Xiaoman lowered her head again. Her expression was filled with loneliness and desolation. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen turned around and prepared to leave after the waiter finished settling the bill. Although they also noticed that there was another person behind them who also knew Yun Xiaoman, they didn't have the intention to understand. However, just as the two of them were about to leave, the middle-aged man who appeared later blocked their path. Please wait. Hearing this, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's expression turned cold almost at the same time. Could it be that they didn't have enough trouble just now? Yun Xiaoman still didn't give up and changed to another person to persuade them. Chapter 6482. Seeing Guan Hongtian venting his anger for her without saying a word, Yun Xiaoman's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. She knew that this would be the result. Originally, her relationship with Guan Yi had not been confirmed, so there was a certain distance between them. However, after what had happened just now, she felt that Guan Yi was not bad. As long as she could take back the elixir furnace today and let her vent her anger in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she did not mind giving Guan Yi a chance. Guan Yi did not expect that his uncle would stand up for him without any hesitation. When he came to his senses, he was very happy. Indeed, his uncle was the shopkeeper of the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. The 10,000 Treasures Pavilion was not an ordinary shop, but a shop in the immortal realm. Many years ago, because they knew that there were many cultivators in the chaotic immortal realm, the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion gradually built some shops in the cities of the chaotic immortal realm. As time passed, more and more shops appeared, but there was only one shop in each city. Many of the treasures in the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion came from the immortal realm. Coupled with the power behind the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion, no one dared to be disrespectful to the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. The fact that his uncle could become the shopkeeper of the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion in Shiyun City had proved his ability. In fact, this identity alone was enough for him to stand firm in Shiyun City, and no one could easily shake him. As long as his uncle said the word, this elixir furnace could be taken away. Previously, he had been slapped in the face repeatedly by Di Baichen, so he was very unhappy in his heart. However, when he thought of Di Baichen's expression after the elixir furnace was taken back, he felt very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She did not expect that the shopkeeper of the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion would be Guan Yi's uncle. No wonder Guan Yi was so generous. She had only wanted to buy a convenient immortal pill furnace, but she had actually caused so much trouble. It really made people unhappy. What if I say no? Di Baichen raised his eyes. His deep eyes were as dark as the night, and there was not the slightest emotion in them. Guan Hongtian's face also turned cold. Thinking back to Yun Xiaoman's aggrieved look, he immediately understood that Xiaoman and Guan Yi must have already discussed with them and were rejected, perhaps even humiliated. Thinking of this, Guan Hongtian's gaze turned even colder. There was actually someone who dared to bully his nephew in his shop? I'm the shopkeeper of the Wanbao Pavilion. If I say I'm not selling this, then you can't take it away. Going back on their word. So this is how Wanbao Pavilion does business? Di Baichen raised his eyebrows slightly. His unparalleled face seemed to be covered with a layer of 10,000-year-old ice. It's not up to you to question how I do business. Guan Hongtian's expression was also very ugly. Now, give me the immortal elixir furnace. Behind Guan Hongtian, Yun Xiaoman was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smug expression. She wanted to see what this woman could do. Baichen, let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang was as cold as ice. After all, this was the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. If the other party was not willing to sell, then there was nothing they could do. Just buying an elixir furnace had already caused so much trouble. She also felt that it was a pity that the elixir furnace fell into Yun Xiaoman's hands. Okay. Di Baichen nodded and held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Chapter 6483. Coward. Upon hearing these two words, Bailey Hongzhuang's cold gaze shot directly towards Guan Yi. This guy who bullies others because of his master's position actually dared to insult her man? Her cold gaze was as sharp as a knife, revealing a vigorous murderous aura. The surrounding temperature seemed to drop in an instant, and the terrifying aura made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. At that moment, Guan Yi saw the color of blood in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Her dark pupils seemed to turn red for a moment, and an endless sea of corpses erupted, engulfing his soul. Thump thump. Guan Yi couldn't help but take 2 steps back, and his face turned deathly pale for a moment. This woman is so scary. He originally thought she was just a flower vase, but after seeing her eyes he understood. This woman was definitely not simple. Clang. The immortal elixir furnace fell heavily to the ground. Guan Hongtian's hand was still in the air, and his face was stiff. When he looked at Di Baichen again, his eyes were filled with anger. Sorry, my hand shook. Di Baichen said indifferently. Looking at Di Baichen's calm and unperturbed face, without the slightest bit of surprise, even the slightest bit of apology, who wouldn't know that he was doing it on purpose? Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other and they were completely speechless. Even if you want to pretend, you should at least put in some effort. What is he trying to do with such a normal expression? Well, they also knew that their male master didn't have any intention of returning the immortal elixir furnace. Since this immortal elixir furnace couldn't fall into the hands of their female master, it naturally couldn't fall into the hands of others. Brat, you did it on purpose. Guan Hongtian's face turned gloomy in an instant. Unlike his previous idle threat, his malicious gaze was like a poisonous snake, and his tyrannical aura instantly lingered. The atmosphere of the entire Wanbao Pavilion froze in an instant, revealing a cold and terrifying aura. Yun Xiaoman didn't expect Di Beichen to pull himself together, and the smile on her face suddenly became very comical. Uncle Guan, this guy is too hateful. Do you know the price of damaging my Wanbao Pavilion's things? Guan Hongtian said darkly. There was no longer any light in his eyes, only coldness. We were the ones who bought this immortal pill furnace, but the shopkeeper said he needed it, so we returned it to you. Logically speaking, if you didn't manage to catch it, it shouldn't have anything to do with us. However, I have always been a kind person, so I won't take back the 100,000 immortal spirit stones. With just 2 simple sentences, Di Beichen had completely cleared himself of all responsibility. Guan Yi and the others were dumbfounded. It was Di Beichen who had broken it. However, they were now pushing all the blame onto Guan Hongtian. The most important thing was that Guan Hongtian's expression of, "I'm not going to argue with you," directly ignited their anger. Damn it. She had never seen such a despicable man. Brat, I think you still don't know the status of my myriad treasure pavilion in Xi'an City. If you dare to play with me like this, you'll have to pay with your life. There was no trace of a smile on Guan Hongtian's face, and his cold voice was like a ghastly wind blowing past everyone's ears. However, just as the atmosphere of the Wanbao Pavilion was about to reach the freezing point, Di Beichen's lips slowly curled into a smile. Heh! A burst of clear laughter seemed to have broken through the enchantment, breaking the chilling atmosphere. Chapter 6484. The sinister laughter was especially eerie in this tense atmosphere. Even Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman, who were waiting to see a joke, had a change of expression. Previously, this man had been extremely cold, but the moment he smiled, they felt that he had become even more dangerous. It was like the cold gleam of a sword being unsheathed. It was dazzling and could not be looked at directly. I really admire the business methods of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. Di Beichen slowly looked up. His long and narrow eyes were covered with ice. Shopkeeper, how are you going to make me pay? Both Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent on the surface, but they had already sized up their surroundings. To be able to open such a big shop in the chaotic Immortal Realms Cloud City, and to be able to sell such high-quality items, this person must be quite powerful in Cloud City. From the moment Guan Hongtian appeared, they had already noticed his cultivation level. At least, he had not broken through to the elementary immortal realm. As their master had said, it was too difficult to break through from the Radiant Sun stage to the elementary immortal realm. If a cultivator broke through to the elementary immortal realm, it would not be difficult to enter the chaotic immortal realm. In the chaotic immortal realm, most cultivators were at the Radiant Sun stage, but there was no lack of elementary immortal realm cultivators. As long as they were careful not to offend such an opponent with their strength, they could still travel freely in this place. Originally, the two of them did not want to cause any trouble, but trouble just had to come to them. Blindly enduring and giving in had never been their principle in life. Moreover, they had stayed in the abandoned immortal forest for so long, and it had been a long time since they had a proper exercise. If the other party wanted to fight, they would at most accompany them. They just needed to withdraw before the other party's helpers arrived. Stinking brat, you're courting death. Guan Hongtian could be considered a big shot in Xi'an City. Most people would give him some face when they saw him, but these two reckless youngsters actually dared to make him lose face in front of his juniors. If he didn't teach them a lesson, how would he be able to show his face in Xi'an City in the future? Bang! A violent punch mixed with a terrifying force fiercely attacked Di Beichen's face. The distance between the two of them was already very close to begin with, so this punch arrived in the blink of an eye. The air seemed to explode in an instant. Even Bailey Hongzhuang, Guan Yi, and the others could feel the dense qi energy clearly. A trace of ridicule appeared in Yun Xiaoman's eyes. This guy really thought he was so great that he dared to fight Uncle Guan head-on. Wasn't this just courting death? Bang! Di Beichen took a step back and threw out a punch. Before their fists even touched, the force behind their fists had already whistled through the air. The shelves on both sides began to tremble in an instant. After seeing this scene, the waiters hurriedly protected the shelves on the side. This fight wasn't a big deal, but if the things on the shelves were destroyed, then their loss would be huge. Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi didn't pay attention to this. Their attention was completely focused on Di Beichen and Guan Hongtian. Don't look at this as the most ordinary punch. Often, through the collision of the two fists, one could determine who had the upper hand. However, until the two of them retracted their fists, they actually did not notice that Di Beichen had fallen into a disadvantageous position. Chapter 6485. Guan Hongtian was already very unhappy that his punch did not injure Di Baichen. Now that he was mercilessly mocked, his face turned even more ashen. However, Di Baichen's words were not without reason. Everything in his Thousand Treasures pavilion was very valuable. It was indeed not suitable to fight here. Alright, let's go out and fight. Guan Hongtian's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. Before he left, he gave Guanyi a look. Guanyi could not help but be shocked when he saw his uncle's look. His uncle actually wanted him to go out and find someone? So, does this mean that even with his uncle's strength, he would not be able to easily defeat Di Baichen? This guy clearly does not look very old. How is that possible? Bailey Hongzhuang followed Di Baichen out of the Thousand Treasures pavilion. As she walked out, she noticed Guanyi whispering into her ear. Her eyes flashed sharply. Di Baichen, finish this quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice. A cold look appeared in her eyes. From Guan Hongtian's business attitude, it was clear that he was not a kind person. Moreover, he did not have any principles. Although he said that he wanted to fight one-on-one, he had already made up his mind to fight as a group. Hearing this, Di Baichen's eyes flashed sharply. He understood what was going on. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other. They felt helpless. This was only their first day in Xiyun City. Perhaps they would have to move soon. Stinking brat, I'll teach you how to behave today. Guan Hongtian attacked Di Baichen again. When they exchanged blows, he realized that although this brat looked very young, his strength was very stable. His cultivation had stagnated at the Radiant Sun stage for many years. Although he had not broken through to the elementary celestial stage, it did not mean that his strength had not improved. Even if he had cultivated to this level, where time would not easily show on his face, he was still certain that this fellow in front of him was really very young. Di Baichen's handsome eyes were slightly cold, and his calm and serene eyes were suffused with a trace of cold light. His killing intent unconsciously erupted. This time he didn't just stand there and wait for Guan Hongtian to attack. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. He wanted to know the difference between him and the cultivators from the realm of chaotic immortal during the few years he spent cultivating in the abandoned immortal forest. A destructive aura swept out. Di Baichen's figure was like a ghost. Under the guidance of his master, he had improved greatly in all aspects compared to before. Boom boom boom. Every move looked ordinary, but when the two of them collided, every move was fatal. Bailey Hongzhuang stood quietly at the side. Senior Zhongli had never accepted disciples. If Senior Meng had not provoked him, Baichen would not have been able to become his disciple. However, after Baichen learned from Senior Zhongli, she completely understood why her grandmother and the others were so afraid of him. It was because Senior Zhongli's strength was really terrifying. Even with Baichen's hardworking personality, he almost couldn't persevere. His requirements were just too strict. Zhongli Mu originally thought that his grandfather was already strict enough with him, but after seeing the intensity of Di Baichen's cultivation, he understood how kind his grandfather was to him. Chapter 6486. After Di Baichen and Guan Hongtian unleashed their full power, each of their moves carried an earth-shattering aura. Both of them were like a whirlwind. Every move of Guan Hongtian's was so powerful that it could make a deep hole in the ground at any time. Di Baichen was different. His figure was more graceful. Although his strength was not small, it was more like he was floating in the wind. The angle of his attacks was tricky. Under such circumstances, Guan Hongtian had to be careful. The angle of this guy's attack was too tricky. If he was careless and was hit in the vital part, he would be severely injured. He had stayed in the Cloud City for so many years and had fought many times. However, this guy in front of him was too evil. He was clearly stronger than him, but he couldn't land a single hit on him. This feeling of punching cotton made him very unhappy. The Wanbao Pavilion had always been quite influential in the Cloud City. At this moment, when they saw the shopkeeper fighting in front of the shop, it immediately attracted a lot of people. However, these people were just here to watch the fun. In the realm of chaotic celestial chaos, fighting was a common thing. People would start a fight if they didn't agree with each other. Many people died here every day. The shopkeeper of the Wanbao Pavilion is fighting with someone. This guy is really brave. You know Guan Hongtian's temper. Usually there are a lot of people who fight with him. But this guy is so handsome. Who is this guy? I have never seen him before. Originally the crowd just wanted to watch the fun. No matter who won or lost, it was just a topic for them to talk about. However, when the group of women saw the man's face, they were instantly stunned. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman didn't expect Di Beichen to be able to fight with Guan Hongtian for such a long time. In their hearts, they knew that this man was also very powerful. No wonder he didn't feel guilty when he saw them. It was because he was very confident. Yun Xiaoman's eyes changed slightly. She thought that Di Beichen was a poor guy, so she felt a little better after being rejected. However, when she saw Di Beichen take out the celestial talisman, his strength, and the doting smile on Di Beichen's face when he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, she was even more jealous. If such a man could show her such a gentle smile, even if he was a poor guy, she wouldn't care. When she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, the jealousy in her heart became stronger. As long as this woman was killed, everything was possible. This woman was destined to be a stumbling block. Brother Yi, the helpers won't be here for a while. Uncle Guan can't fight with this man in a short time. Why don't we kill this woman? As long as this woman is taken hostage, he will lose his mind. Hearing this, a hint of hesitation appeared in Guan Yi's eyes. This woman's strength might not be simple. Just now, with just a glance, he had already found out how terrifying she was. So what? Yun Xiaoman didn't take it seriously. Can't you and I defeat her together? If she is really powerful, she would have already done it. Why would she just stand aside? In my opinion, it must be this man who protects her. She is nothing. Chapter 6487. Brother Yi, don't tell me you're having tender feelings for her? Seeing Guan Yi hesitating for a long time without agreeing, Yun Xiaoman frowned with a trace of anger in her eyes. Guan Yi quickly shook his head. That's not it. I just feel that we should wait for the helper to come. Anyway, he can't win against my uncle. The other party is now sweeping the face of Wanbao Pavilion. If we don't do anything, won't we be seen as a joke? Yun Xiaoman snorted. If you don't want to help, then I'll do it myself. Seeing Yun Xiaoman's resolute attitude, Guan Yi helplessly said, I promise you. But when he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that this woman who looked calm and collected wasn't simple. Because if it was an ordinary person in this situation, they would be somewhat flustered. But the woman in front of him was so calm that it was unbelievable. Bailey Hongzhuang was watching the confrontation between Di Beichen and Guan Hongtian. Looking at the current situation, Guan Hongtian was completely powerless. His attack couldn't really land on Di Beichen's body, which meant that he couldn't do anything to him. At this time, a strong wind suddenly came. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even look and blocked it with a palm. Yun Xiaoman was actually pushed back 2 steps by Bailey Hongzhuang's careless palm. Obviously she had been storing up her strength for a long time, but Bailey Hongzhuang just casually responded in a hurry. This kind of gap. The winner was obvious. Miss, you really like to do these things that can't see the light of day. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Yun Xiaoman with ridicule, but a trace of cold light flashed through the depths of her eyes. This woman is really troublesome. If it wasn't for this woman's arrogance, there wouldn't be so many twists and turns today. However, she actually wanted to take the opportunity to sneak attack her. Her vicious thoughts were without a doubt. Originally she didn't intend to make things too big, but the other party had already bullied her. If she still didn't do anything, then she wouldn't be her. After her attack was blocked, Yun Xiaoman's face was also very ugly. She gave Guan Yi a look, and the two of them immediately attacked together. Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi actually joined hands to deal with this woman I've never seen before. It seems like this woman's strength is not simple. I don't know what happened, but it's too embarrassing for 2 people to fight one. There's something you don't know. Isn't the Myriad Treasure Pavilion best at bullying others? Ganging up is their habit. Everyone shook their heads, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with a trace of regret. Facing the 2 of them working together, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly chuckled. Do you think you're the only ones with helpers? As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi's complexion slightly changed. They had already gone to look for people at the first moment, but now their people still hadn't arrived. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang's people had already arrived? If so, wouldn't it be more troublesome for them? The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's white hand flicked. Xiaohei go. Yun Xiaoman saw a white stone smashing towards her, and heard Bailey Hongzhuang's order. She couldn't help but be on guard against her surroundings, not knowing who was going to make a move on her. In her view, Bailey Hongzhuang's casual swing of the stone was just to deliberately distract her. A stone? What kind of power could it have? Playing this kind of trick now was simply a joke. Chapter 6488. Not only Yun Xiaoman, even the other people were also searching in the crowd, not knowing where the helper that this woman was talking about was. Yun Xiaoman continued to search, but did not notice that the stone that she had overlooked was actually gradually becoming bigger in the air, and at the same time, a fist fiercely struck her abdomen. It was not that she did not split her attention to deal with this stone, but she was just casually dealing with it. Because at their cultivation level, a stone could not even break through their body's defense. All of a sudden, a terrifying power attacked her, completely beyond her guard. Peng! Under this attack, Yun Xiaoman's figure flew out, sliding on the ground for tens of meters before coming to a stop. At the same time, everyone discovered that at the place where Yun Xiaoman was originally standing, unknowingly, a white fur ball had appeared there. Its soft white fur felt great to the touch, and its round figure coupled with its round eyes made it look exceptionally cute. It was like a harmless pillow that made people want to hug it. What is this? Everyone stared blankly at the sudden appearance of the fur ball. A fist directly sent Yun Xiaoman flying, although there was an element of luck, but it was enough to prove that its strength was extremely terrifying. Oh my, could this be a demonic beast? Is there such a unique demonic beast in this world? This is too cute, hugging it while sleeping is simply too comfortable. A group of women's eyes flashed with sparkling light, their expressions were impressively written with cuteness. Too cute. Although everyone was very clear that the more terrifying a contract beast looked, the more powerful it was, but this kind of contract beast. Women really could not resist awe. Compared to those contract beasts that looked terrifying, this kind of contract beast was simply too cute. Xiao He saw that everyone liked it so much, a trace of pride appeared in its eyes, its charm was not small. Yun Xiaoman climbed up, only then did she notice that she was actually sent flying by such a fur ball. Her face immediately became even more ugly. This kind of fellow? Where did it come from? Damn it. It was really too hateful. After a short moment of surprise, Guanyi quickly came back to his senses. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. This woman's contracted beast was really independent. He did know of some good-looking contract beasts, but they were usually useless in the lower planes. Some were only used for ornamental purposes. In the immortal realm, almost every cultivator had a contract beast. However, because everyone had ascended from the lower planes, the level of their contracted beast was naturally not too high. It would be best if he could encounter a growth-type demonic beast. However, most demonic beasts had limited room for growth. Furthermore, with their current cultivation level, many contracted demonic beasts could already transform into human form. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast looked very cute, it still hadn't transformed into a human form. It was obvious that it didn't have any strength at all. Apart from occasionally being used as an opportunistic tactic, it didn't have any other effects. She actually didn't find it embarrassing to have such a contracted beast. Take his own contracted beast for example. He rarely let it appear in front of others because it was too weak. Chapter 6489. Xiao Bai get ready? After all, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were the contracted beasts created by the Dark Holy Sun and Holy Maiden of Light respectively. They were different from other contracted beasts from the lower realms. They originally belonged to this realm. Therefore, when they were cultivating, the cultivation of the two little fellows did not fall behind. Since they were all in the Radiant Sun realm, when these two little fellows unleashed their strength, the situation changed from 1 against 2 to 3 against 2. After seeing Xiao He steal the limelight, Xiao Bai couldn't wait to show off. Now that he heard his mistress' order, he naturally rushed out immediately. When Guanyi saw that Bailey Hongzhuang actually planned to use the same trick on him, he naturally wouldn't be fooled again. When he saw the black stone bouncing towards him, he quickly dodged it. Although Yun Xiaoman stood up from her performance, it could be seen that the strength of that move was extremely shocking. Seeing that Guanyi dodged, Bailey Hongzhuang obviously expected it. Under Guanyi's astonished gaze, black stones flew towards him. Seeing this scene, Guanyi was also dumbfounded. So many? After dodging more than 10 stones in a row, Guanyi was a little dazed when he saw the stones land on the ground in an ordinary manner. They were actually just ordinary stones? Is this Guanyi stupid? Every cultivator only has one contracted beast, and that contracted beast has already appeared. Does he still think that there are others? Haha, look at his nervous expression. I'm afraid he really thinks so. Guanyi, who originally didn't understand, immediately understood after hearing everyone's mocking words. How could he forget this point? In an instant, Guanyi's face was darker than the bottom of a pot. Thinking back to how he dodged in every possible way, it was simply a joke. However, this also aroused the anger in his heart. This woman actually dared to trick him. I'm going to teach you a good lesson. Guan Yi's footsteps flew, and he quickly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. However, facing Guan Yi, who was closing the distance, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to feel it at all. Stones continued to shoot out. Ridiculous. Guan Yi casually waved his hand, completely ignoring these stones. He was about to die from anger. At this moment, the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up into an almost invisible smile, with a hint of enchanting and playfulness. Shall I go? Bang. Just as Guan Yi was getting closer and closer to Bailey Hongzhuang, ignoring the pebbles, a terrifying wave of air suddenly swept over. The sudden wave of air completely exceeded Guan Yi's understanding. His attack was clearly only one step away from Bailey Hongzhuang, but he was sent flying by a terrifying wave of air. At that moment, everyone clearly noticed that Guan Yi's expression changed from ferocious to shocked, and then to red. Smoke and dust rose as Guan Yi's body landed heavily on the ground, creating a deep pit. Looking at the deep pit, everyone understood that the force he endured was much heavier than Yun Xiao Man. Cough, cough, cough. Guan Yi clutched his chest and coughed non-stop until he fell to the ground. He was still in a daze. Just now at that moment, what actually happened? When he raised his eyes to look, he clearly noticed that in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, there was a similar size but completely different color, black furball. Chapter 6490. Seeing this black furball appear, not only Guan Yi, everyone present was also dumbfounded. No one would have two contracted beasts at the same time, so what was going on with this contracted beast in front of them? The most important thing was that one punch almost made Guan Yi spit out blood. This strength was not just a little shocking. How could it be like this? Yun Xiaoman was a little confused. Until this moment she finally understood the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words before. The opponent's numbers were indeed greater than theirs. Xiao Bai proudly raised its eyebrows at Xiao He, indicating that its attack caused more damage. Wait and see. Xiao He's face was unresigned, its gaze became unfathomable. Just now it also used an extremely strong strength, but Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi were in a different environment. Guan Yi was too close, so it was able to explode with the strongest effect. Guan Yi quickly climbed up from the deep pit, patted the smoke and dust off his body, but in the end he was still a little embarrassed. I understand, this black contracted beast is most likely this man's contracted beast, right? That's right, these two people are really interesting, even their contracted beasts are of the same species. These two contracted beasts look so cute, their battle strength shouldn't be strong. Guan Yi was actually sent flying by this contracted beast. It's really a little embarrassing. Everyone clicked their tongue and sighed. Reaching the brilliant sun realm, the distance from becoming a true immortal is only one step. With this kind of strength, it's impossible for him to be injured by a normal contracted beast, although Guan Yi was caught off guard, but this kind of performance is indeed a little embarrassing. As if feeling everyone's ridiculing gaze, Guan Yi was a little angry. You're courting death. So what? If you have the ability, hit me. Xiao Bai didn't care and twisted its body. That appearance was really asking for a beating. Seeing this, Guan Yi's face became more and more ashen. This damned guy. In the next moment, Guan Yi directly rushed towards Xiao He. This kind of contract beast that could only be somewhat useful through trickery actually dared to be so cocky in front of him. He must kill this contract beast today. Yun Xiaoman also had the same idea as Guan Yi. They had just made a move and they were already slapped in the face by two contract beasts. If they didn't kill these two contract beasts, they wouldn't even be able to raise their heads. As long as she and Guan Yi attacked at the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang could only protect one of them even if she wanted to. If he wanted to protect the two of them, he simply couldn't do it in two places. As Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman moved at the same time, everyone discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang, who they thought would fall into a panic, still had a relaxed and casual appearance, as if she was not worried at all. Could it be that this woman doesn't care about these two contract beasts at all? In the world of cultivation, as the strength of the cultivator increased, the cultivation of the contracted beasts would often not be able to keep up. In addition, each cultivator could only contract with one demonic beast. Thus, this situation was created. As long as the contracted beast died, they would have the opportunity to contract a new one. Of course, the majority of cultivators wouldn't do this because so many years of companionship were very affectionate. That kind of feeling was like a family member. Ordinary people simply couldn't make a move on their own family members. Even if the contracted beast's strength couldn't help them much, at least it was a kind of connection and comfort. Chapter 6491. Although Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi were a little surprised, they didn't take it to heart. No matter how vicious and merciless Bailey Hongzhuang was, it had nothing to do with them. Anyway, it would only affect her own image. Letting everyone see the ugliness in this woman's heart was actually a good thing for them. Against a normal contracted beast, the two of them naturally wouldn't spend too much effort. There was no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. If they used a Herculean effort to kill these two contracted beasts, wouldn't it be embarrassing if word got out? Bang! Just as they were thinking, Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi's attacks were already very close to Xiao He and Xiao Bai. However, just as the two of them had completely locked onto the contracted beasts and their attacks were about to land on Xiao He and Xiao Bai, they suddenly realized that the two contracted beasts had disappeared into thin air. The sudden situation was out of their expectations. Their fists were already out and couldn't be retracted. The feeling of punching into thin air was unbearable. Everyone present was also attracted by this scene. The two furballs had appeared out of thin air and now they had disappeared into thin air. It was indeed very strange. Just as Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi were charging forward due to inertia, the two furballs appeared again and used their bodies as weapons to fiercely smash into the two's backs. Bang! Ouch! Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi's bodies fiercely crashed into each other before falling to the ground. However, through Xiao He and Xiao Bai's attacks, everyone finally understood what was going on. It turned out that these two contracted beasts that didn't seem to have any attack power actually had a very powerful ability. That was, change size. This ability might not seem very useful at first glance, but as long as it was used properly, the effect was very shocking. At least, when it was used for a sneak attack, this was simply an awesome assist. Waves of pain came from her body. Yun Xiaoman only felt a burning sensation on her back, as if her skin was about to split open. That powerful strength wasn't inferior to a Radiant Sun Stage Cultivator's full-strength attack. Damn it! Yun Xiaoman cursed. If she had been defeated fair and square, then it would have been fine, but this feeling of humiliation was simply infuriating. Xiaoman, are you okay? Guan Yi endured the pain in his back and looked at Yun Xiaoman with concern. Yun Xiaoman's complexion was ashen. Being humiliated in front of so many people, she was about to explode from anger. I'm fine. This woman is so arrogant. How can I be fine? Her furious voice was mixed with hysterical anger. At this moment, Yun Xiaoman no longer had the slightest bit of her previous bearing. Her pretty face was filled with a ferocious expression, and her eyes were full of murderous intent. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to notice the murderous aura that engulfed her. She continued to stand in the same spot like a painting. And this kind of Bailey Hongzhuang even more provoked Yun Xiaoman's anger. She immediately stood up and angrily said, "If you have the ability, then fight with me fair and square. Don't play these little tricks." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned her gaze and looked at Yun Xiaoman with a smile that wasn't a smile. Her phoenix eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule. "You can't even defeat my contracted beasts and you actually want to fight with me?" This casual sentence ruthlessly pierced into Yun Xiaoman's heart. Her mood that had calmed down a second ago was immediately ignited again. "I'm going to kill you." Chapter 6492. One side was shouting hysterically while the other side was casually replying. The crowd's eyes were filled with disdain. Not to mention the exchange just now, Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Just based on the white-clothed woman's calm and composed attitude, it could be seen that her strength was not weak because this kind of arrogance that came from her bones was not something that others could give. You try. Hearing these provocative words, Yun Xiaoman could not hold back the killing intent in her heart and once again rushed forward. However, before she could even get close, Xiao He had already appeared in front of her once again. "Want to touch my master? You'll have to pass through me first." Xiao He coldly looked at Yun Xiaoman. Originally, everything was going very smoothly today. If it wasn't for this woman looking for trouble again and again, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened. However, since things had already gotten out of hand, then she might as well let it continue. Just based on this fellow, he might not even be her opponent. Why would she need her master to make a move? Yun Xiaoman's entire body was emitting a cold killing intent. Her face was already red from anger. She was simply about to die from anger. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she was actually humiliated by a contract beast time and time again. If you have the ability, then don't change your size. If you don't dare, then get out of the way. With a trace of craftiness in her dark eyes, Yun Xiaoman's gaze locked onto Xiaohei. This furball's ability to suddenly change its size was really too annoying. Just now it happened twice in a row was already embarrassing enough. If it happened again, then it would really become a joke. The strangest thing was that for a contract beast with a weaker cultivation, it should be very easy to lock onto its aura. Once it was locked onto, even if it changed its size, it could still be caught. However, just when this contract beast changed its size, she discovered that she was unable to lock onto this demonic beast's aura. This was what made her most speechless. Where did this strange demonic beast that she had never heard of before come from? Not only was its appearance strange, its moves were also strange. Following Yun Xiaoman's words, the crowd could not help but sigh. The contract beast's strength was originally not strong enough. If it did not have this small advantage, then wouldn't it be easily defeated? Such a statement was simply too shameless. However, just as everyone thought that Xiaohei would never agree, the white furball nodded. All right, I promise you. Agreed? Everyone was stunned, and even Yun Xiaoman was a little surprised. She only wanted to chase this hateful furball to the side, but it actually agreed to her request without a second thought. After a brief moment of shock, she met Xiaohei's mocking gaze. She was certain that she did not see wrongly. She saw mockery and disdain in the furball's eyes. A contracted beast actually dared to look at her with such a gaze? It was a great humiliation. Compared to being ridiculed by Bailey Hongzhuang, being looked down upon by a demon beast, especially a demon beast from a lower plane, was far more humiliating. Good. I'll roast you today. Yun Xiaoman's face flashed with a hint of madness, and she attacked Xiaohei directly. She wanted to turn this furball into dregs with a punch. Seeing Yun Xiaoman's crazy attitude, everyone unconsciously looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. At this point, could it be that she still did not make a move? Chapter 6493. Xiaohei and Xiaobai were her earliest contracted beasts. From the time she transmigrated until now, they had been cultivating for quite some time. It was just that the two little fellows' appearances were too deceiving, so she always treated them as cute pets. In fact, Xiaohei and Xiaobai's battle strength was not weak at all. Their strength was even stronger than Xiao Xuanzi's. Now that Xiao Xuanzi was training by himself, Xiaohei and Xiaobai could also stand on their own. Since there was a chance for the two little fellows to perform well, she couldn't let them cultivate peacefully all the time. Actual combat was still very helpful to the improvement of battle strength. Yun Xiaoman saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any plans to make a move, and a trace of ridicule appeared in her eyes. She would kill this contracted beast and let her have a good look. Bang! This time Xiaohei didn't dodge at all. Its fist also met it. Just when everyone thought that Xiaohei would be killed by this fist, their expressions stiffened for a moment. Then they stared dumbfoundedly at Yun Xiaoman, who flew out again. Yun Xiaoman originally didn't put Xiaohei in her heart, so she naturally wouldn't use all her strength in the fight. However, when the terrifying strength of that fist came, it was too late for her to regret. This was because she could clearly feel the aura of this seemingly harmless demonic beast. Radiant Sun Realm. It was actually Radiant Sun Realm. The sharp pain coming from her body couldn't compare to the shock in her heart. She couldn't believe that this contracted beast's strength was actually this strong. This was simply impossible. Everyone present was stunned. When they looked at Xiaohei again, everyone put away their previous casualness. If the previous two times were opportunistic, then this time should be a direct confrontation, right? A Radiant Sun Realm cultivator facing a direct confrontation and not defeating a contracted beast, this kind of scene, was really rare. Oh my god, we've never seen this kind of contracted beast before. Could it be an immortal beast? Are immortal beasts so cute? Previously, when I thought it was just for show, I was already very fond of it. Coupled with such strong strength, it's simply the contract beast of my dreams. I'm suddenly so envious of them. They actually have such great demon beasts. If I could have one too, I would be so happy. Xiaohei and Xiaobai's adorable looks had already captured the hearts of many female cultivators. One could only imagine how much influence these cute contracted beasts would have when they were also extremely powerful. Now, not only female cultivators, even male cultivators felt that if they had such a contracted beast, it would be much easier to pursue female cultivators. After all, from the reactions of these women, it could be seen that none of them could resist this temptation. It was rare for Xiaohei and Xiaobai to be praised by so many people, and they felt proud of themselves. It looked like their hard work during this period of time had not been in vain. Being strong was indeed beneficial. Guan Yi quickly subdued Yun Xiaoman, and Yun Xiaoman had an expression as if she had seen a ghost. How could it be Radiant Sun Realm? The moment these words were spoken, everyone at the scene was shocked. Their faces were full of shock. This contracted beast is actually Radiant Sun Realm? What kind of contracted beast is this? Even if it's not an immortal beast, if it breaks through to the elementary celestial realm, then it's a real immortal beast. Chapter 6494. If the white furball was at the Radiant Sun stage, then the black furball's strength was probably on par with it. Two Radiant Sun stage contracted beasts. Their strength was simply exploding. Bang! At the same time, Di Beichen sent Guan Hongtian flying with a single palm strike. He looked to the side and saw Xiao He and Xiao Bai who were in the limelight. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. His elegant and charming face suddenly had a trace of mischief and charm. The crowd was already attracted by Di Beichen's appearance. When they saw this graceful smile, their hearts skipped a beat. They were completely immersed in that charming smile. Seeing Di Beichen defeat Guan Hongtian, Bailey Hongzhuang also smiled like a spring breeze. She knew that with Beichen's strength, defeating Guan Hongtian wouldn't be a problem. The strength of the cultivators in the chaotic immortal realm had a lot to do with the city. Just as the abandoned immortal forest was more dangerous in the center, the chaotic immortal realm was also the same. The closer the city was to the chaotic immortal realm, the stronger the cultivators were. Xian City was undoubtedly the outermost city. They didn't feel much pressure here. Even though Guan Hongtian was older, after opening the Million Treasures Pavilion, his cultivation had probably slackened a bit. After all, it was easy for people to relax in a good environment. Guan Hongtian didn't think that he would be at a disadvantage in the hands of Di Beichen. Immediately, his expression became very ugly. This young man who had never appeared before was actually so powerful. The woman at the side hadn't even made a move. Just the two contracted beasts were enough to make Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman fall into such a predicament. This threat wasn't small at all. He had stayed in Xian City for so many years. He knew all too well that these people were real threats. The more powerful a person was, the more they needed to be dealt with as soon as possible. Otherwise, once the other party's strength exceeded his own, it would be really troublesome. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps arrived. Master. Seeing the sudden appearance of several figures, Guan Hongtian's expression became better. He revealed a proud smile. His helpers had finally arrived. Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi also let out a sigh of relief. Although the strength of these two fellows had indeed exceeded their expectations, as long as the outcome did not change, it did not matter. In short, these two fellows would definitely die today. Tsk, the Wanbao Pavilion's helpers are here. There's no show to watch. What a pity. I actually hoped that they would win. At the very least, I would want to know what kind of contract beast it is. Don't even think about it. Although the shopkeeper of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion isn't very strong, it's still the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Everyone clicked their tongues and shook their heads. At this point, the outcome had already been decided. Yun Xiaoman put her hands on her hips and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang proudly. Now that things have come to this, let's see how you can still pretend to be calm. Teach them a good lesson. Guan Hongtian waved his hand, and a dozen cultivators surrounded Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. They were all cultivators of the Radiant Sun Realm. Just the aura they released was already full of deterrence. Just as everyone was sighing and preparing to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear voice slowly sounded. As usual, it was languid and casual. If you want to die, then you can try. Hearing this, Yun Xiaoman frowned. This woman was about to die and still had this kind of expression. It was really strange. Stop pretending. Do you think I'll fall for your trick? Chapter 6495. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's confident appearance, everyone couldn't help but stop. They wanted to know what made Bailey Hongzhuang so confident. Guan Hongtian also frowned. Ever since they started fighting, he realized that these two guys who he thought he could easily crush to death weren't simple. They had an indescribable evil nature. Not to mention the two contracted beasts, even this man was very strange. According to his judgment, the opponent's aura wasn't as good as his. At least, the strength of the Radiant Sun stage was definitely not as long as his. However, when they fought, he felt very uncomfortable. On one hand, this kid was too agile. On the other hand, he felt that he didn't force out this kid's full strength. When this thought appeared, He himself felt that it was inconceivable. However, this feeling just kept deepening in his mind. Let's try then. Yun Xiaoman also didn't believe this and directly rushed towards Bailey Hongzhuang. This time, Xiao He and Xiao Bai didn't block in front of the woman. Even Di Beichen didn't make a move. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed. Everyone only saw a white light flash by. Yun Xiaoman's fist didn't land on her body. On the contrary, she was sent flying again by a kick. How did it feel to be sent flying 3 or 4 times in a row? Yun Xiaoman only wanted to kill now. Uncle Guan, you must help me kill this woman. Yun Xiaoman looked at Guan Hongtian with shame and anger. No matter how unwilling she was, she had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was stronger than her. If this woman suddenly appeared, she wouldn't have come from the city inside, right? Otherwise, with the same cultivation, how could her battle strength be so strong? Guan Yi helped Yun Xiaoman up again. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, his gaze was complicated. So this woman wasn't just beautiful, her strength was also amazing. Don't worry, the two of them definitely won't be able to leave. Guan Hongtian's eyes showed a trace of ruthlessness. Not to mention that Yun Xiaoman wasn't willing, he also wouldn't agree. They made him lose face in front of everyone. If he didn't kill them, then how would others look at him in the future? Capture them. Guan Hongtian ordered with a ruthless look in his eyes. Since you dare to cause trouble in the Wanbao Pavilion, I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to be dead. Looking at the crowd getting closer and closer, Bailey Hongzhuang said casually, if you want the two of them to die, then do it. Hearing this, Guan Hongtian sneered. Do you think this kind of groundless threat can make me stop? Do you think I'm a fool? Aren't you? The sarcastic question was like a flame that instantly ignited a candle. Guan Hongtian's anger flared up even more. However, before he could say anything, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice rang out again. The two of them have already been poisoned by me. If you dare to make a move, I guarantee that they will die before me. As soon as these words came out, Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi couldn't help but be stunned. Both of their faces were filled with disbelief. This is impossible. Previously they had indeed exchanged blows, but poisoning. They had never thought of that. Look at your palms, isn't there a black line? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked up in an enchanting arc. Her elegant and refined smiling face suddenly filled with grace, becoming more and more alluring. What kind of joke is this? How could we be poisoned? Chapter 6496. Whether it was Yun Xiaoman or Guan Yi, they both thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was just deliberately mystifying things. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang did not touch them at all, and in the process, they did not feel that she had poisoned them at all. At this level of cultivation, ordinary poison techniques were useless against them, unless it was a poison master who was extremely proficient in poison techniques. Because the poison from the lower realm had very little effect here, even if the poison was not simple, as long as they bought a detoxification pill, the poison could be easily neutralized. Since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared in this cloud-gathering city, her methods must not be too good, because the inner city usually has more abundant cultivation resources. Staying here is a waste of time. Just when the two of them thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was just stalling for time, they suddenly discovered that a black line had appeared on their palms. This black line appeared without anyone noticing. If it was not for her reminder, they did not even know when they would have discovered it. How could this be? Guan Yi's pupils shrank, becoming incomparably ugly. Even if he was not proficient in the art of medicine and poison, but as long as he felt it carefully, he could discover that this was indeed poison. They were poisoned. In a situation where they were completely unaware, they were poisoned. Even if the others could not see the palms of the two, but just by looking at the expression of the two, they could tell that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. For a moment, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a trace of fear in their eyes. No wonder this woman had a calm and composed appearance from beginning to end. It turns out that she was a poison master. Poison masters were originally able to kill people without leaving a trace, unless they were extremely strong or someone who could neutralize the poison. Once other people were poisoned, it would be extremely troublesome. I really could not tell that this delicate and pure girl was actually a poison master. Just based on her performance just now, her poison methods are very strong. I have been watching the fight just now. There was no chance to use poison at all. Could it be that it was done by those two contracted beasts? As soon as this was said, everyone looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai with a trace of amazement. When a poison master had a contract beast that could be said to be a hidden weapon, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Anyone who didn't know her well would easily fall into her trap. What's more, this contracted beast is so strong, it's the best combination. You dare to poison us? Yun Xiaoman's complexion paled a little. She had always been on guard against Bailey Hongzhuang, but she didn't think that this woman was really good at this aspect. Why wouldn't I dare? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows playfully. If I want you to die, you'll die within 3 seconds. Do you believe me? Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in bewilderment. The two of them subconsciously did not believe it, because they did not believe that the poison was so powerful. However, when they recalled the many strange situations that Bailey Hongzhuang had shown, they were not confident. If what this woman said was true, once they treated her with this kind of attitude, even if they really had to die. Guan Hongtian pulled Guan Yi's hand. After seeing the deep and dark poison line, his face became extremely ugly. You women are actually so despicable. Chapter 6497. In terms of being despicable, I admit defeat. Her cold voice was as fresh and natural as spring water. Her calm face did not have the slightest trace of mockery. However, it was these kind of words coupled with that kind of face that had the most destructive power. You. Guan Hongtian was so angry at Bailey Hongzhuang that he did not know what to say. Don't be too proud. This kind of poison is definitely not difficult to detoxify. Ha. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. You can try. Uncle? Guan Yi looked at Guan Hongtian for help. He did not know why, but he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was too confident. This made him very uneasy. Someone bring 2 antidote pills. With a wave of Guan Yi's hand, the attendant of Wanbao Pavilion immediately brought 2 antidote pills. Quickly take it. Seeing this, Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman did not dare to delay and immediately took the antidote pills. As long as the antidote pills could detoxify the poison, then they would be able to teach these 2 hateful fellows a lesson without any scruples. Everyone looked at this scene with interest, not knowing what the outcome would be. Di Beichen stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang calmly. There was no need to say more about his wife's poison skills. When she was in the upper realm, her poison skills were already at the peak. Now, with Granny Hua's guidance, even in the immortal realm, her poison skills were definitely outstanding. In fact, in these days in the abandoned immortal forest, Bailey Hongzhuang's poison skills had improved more than her cultivation. After Yun Xiaoman took the antidote pill, she quickly looked at the black line in her hand. As long as the black line disappeared, they would be able to kill Bailey Hongzhuang at the first moment. At that time, the treasures on these 2 people would all be theirs. With so many pills and talismans, how many cultivation resources could they exchange for? Perhaps, they could even use these cultivation resources to reach the elementary immortal realm. How is it? Guan Hongtian looked at Guan Yi with concern. He had always been very concerned about this nephew of his. No matter what, he couldn't let anything happen to Guan Yi. Guan Yi stared blankly at the black line that was still visible on his palm. His expression turned ugly. Uncle, it doesn't seem to work. Useless? Guan Hongtian grabbed Guan Yi's hand in disbelief. This detoxification pill was quite effective. It could detoxify all common poisons, even some of the more complicated ones. Guan Hongtian's heart sank when he saw the clear line of poison with his own eyes. No wonder these 2 fellows were so calm. It seemed like they were extremely confident in their methods. As long as we catch them, we'll be able to find the poison on her body. One of his subordinates couldn't help but say. Once they attacked, the 2 of them would definitely be unable to escape calamity. However, everyone knew this, but Guan Hongtian didn't dare to act rashly. Because according to Bailey Hongzhuang, it wouldn't be difficult for her to kill Guan Yi and Jun Wuxia first. He couldn't gamble and didn't dare to gamble. Once Guan Yi died, how would he face it? Not only Guan Hongtian, but Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman's faces also turned red. Didn't this mean that the initiative had fallen into the hands of the other party? What do you want? Yun Xiaoman looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an ashen face. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent and unwillingness. Chapter 6498. Yun Xiaoman almost subconsciously wanted to retort, but thinking that her life was still in the other party's hands, she could only forcibly swallow her unwillingness. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman looked at each other. The other party's conditions made them feel very humiliated. Even if it was just an apology, it was very shameful. Why don't you apologize first? As long as we get the antidote, we'll kill them. Guan Hongtian's eyes flashed with a scheming luster. The older the ginger, the spicier the ginger. At worst he would admit defeat now. The other party only had 2 people, after all they were weak. When the time comes to deal with them, wouldn't it be a simple matter? Guan Yi naturally understood that at present, besides this method, there was no other way. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only say, "I'm sorry." Seeing that Guan Yi had already apologized, Yun Xiaoman quickly followed up, "I'm sorry." Louder, my master can't hear. Xiao Hei heard the mosquito-like voice and couldn't help but say. Seeing that a contract beast actually dared to bully her, Yun Xiaoman's heart was even more unhappy. Her face was as red as a pig's liver, the surging anger in her eyes was about to erupt at any time. But, thinking of the poison line in her hands, her momentum weakened and she helplessly raised her voice, "I'm sorry." Only then did everyone hear it clearly. Seeing the 2 people apologizing like this, everyone sighed and shook their heads. The situation. Until the very last moment, no one knew what would happen. The speed of this turn of events was really surprising. Wanbao Pavilion has never suffered such a loss. This time they really lost face. They also didn't expect this to happen, but to be honest, this Guanhong Tian is really too arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that Wanbao Pavilion's things are really first class, I wouldn't be willing to buy it all. Then what can we do? Who told him to be the shopkeeper of Wanbao Pavilion? Seeing him suffer a loss today, I actually feel very happy. Is this okay? Guanhong Tian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, even if he knew that he should soften his tone, but when he spoke there was still a bit of anger. At this time Di Beichen's deep eyes fell on him. "What about you? What about you?" Hearing this, Guanhong Tian couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Only then did he realize that Di Beichen was saying that he hadn't apologized yet. "You want me to apologize?" Guanhong Tian raised his voice. Disbelief was written all over his face. He was the shopkeeper of Wanbao Pavilion as well as the elders of these 2 people. They actually want him to apologize to them? Is there a problem? Di Beichen furrowed his brows and asked. It was a simple rhetorical question, but there was a hint of irrefutability in it. "Don't go too far," Guanhong Tian emphasized. It wasn't a big deal for the 2 juniors to apologize, but if he also apologized, then it would be a great loss of face. "Is up." Di Beichen didn't care. Instead he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang gently. "Wife, let's go." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai jumped onto their shoulders, intending to leave. Guan Hongtian's subordinates looked up, unsure if they should stop them or not. "Shopkeeper." Chapter 6499. Guan Hongtian's eyes flashed with a hint of struggle as countless thoughts flashed through his mind. If he had enough time, he would like to find a physician to examine the situation. Perhaps a physician would be able to detoxify the poison. Unfortunately, he did not have time at all. Wait. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were about to walk out of the encirclement, Guan Hongtian's voice rang out. However, the 2 of them did not stop because of this and continued to walk forward. Guan Hongtian's expression darkened when he saw that the 2 of them did not seem to care at all. He immediately quickened his pace and walked in front of the 2 of them. "Wait. I apologize." Guan Hongtian's face was filled with embarrassment, and indignation. However, he still blurted it out. "I was in the wrong earlier. I apologize." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Guan Hongtian indifferently and said, "I only bought an elixir furnace from the Thousand Treasures Pavilion, but you still acted all high and mighty in front of me after I paid for it. As the shopkeeper, you should apologize properly." As the woman's clear and melodious voice fell, the crowd finally understood what was going on. I guess that Guan Hongtian was being unreasonable first. His way of doing business is really admirable. I think the Thousand Treasures Pavilion is really blind. If someone else was the shopkeeper, their business would definitely be much better. It's no use even if you think it's a pity. Who asked Guan Hongtian to be the shopkeeper? The crowd sighed and shook their heads. Everyone wanted to be the shopkeeper of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. On one hand, it was a lucrative job. On the other hand, the shopkeeper was more powerful than others. If anything happened, he could even use the Thousand Treasures Pavilion's power. At the very least, with this identity, his status in Xi'an City could be said to be very stable. Guan Hongtian's expression darkened when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's lecturing words. However, the initiative was now in the other party's hands. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only suppress his anger. "This is indeed my fault. Miss, you're a magnanimous person. Can you give me the antidote?" Guan Hongtian hid the viciousness in his eyes, and a pleading look appeared in his eyes. As long as he got the antidote, he would kill these 2 bastards. Do I have to forgive you just because you apologize? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Guan Hongtian raised his head abruptly. He clearly noticed the mockery in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. His voice became low and suppressed. Are you playing with me? You owe us an apology. Isn't that what you should do? Bailey Hongzhuang said seriously. Her innocent look made it seem as if she was talking about the cycle of karma. It was a very normal thing. Looking at that extremely beautiful face, Guan Hongtian felt all of his anger being aroused. Don't go too far. Yun Xiaoman couldn't bear it anymore. She angrily pointed at Bailey Hongzhuang, her chest heaving up and down because of her anger. The immortal pill furnace has already been destroyed by you, and we've already apologized. What else do you want? As far as I know, we've already paid for this immortal pill furnace. Di Beichen's calm voice sounded. His eyes as deep as the night fell on Yun Xiaoman's body, revealing a kind of disdainful aura. Chapter 6500. Speaking of which, from the beginning to the end you've been looking for trouble. If we weren't poisoned, would you let us go so easily? Under the starry sunshine, Bailey Hongzhuang's jade-like face glowed with a dazzling luster. A mocking smile bloomed on her lips, but it didn't affect her beauty at all. On the contrary, it added an indescribable charm, like a demon crystal in the forest, exuding a fatal charm. You have 3 days. If I see your sincerity in 3 days, I'll give you the antidote. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand and disappeared into the crowd. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Guan Tianyi leaving, Yun Xiaoman and the other two could only stand there in a daze. No matter how unwilling they were, their lives were in the hands of the other party. Oh, don't worry. We'll find a doctor to check on you first. Maybe the antidote will be easy. Guan Hongtian looked at Guan Yi with concern. He felt that this woman was the real idiot. Once the antidote was cured, he would make her die without a burial place. Guan Yi nodded slightly. Uncle, I believe it can be cured. Uncle Guan, what if they take advantage of this opportunity to run away? The chaotic immortal domain is so big. If we can't find them, then this time. Yun Xiaoman's face was gloomy. Feeling the ridicule of the surrounding people, she only felt that she was going to die of anger. She had stayed in Xian City for so long, but she had never been so embarrassed. Guan Hongtian waved his hand indifferently. Xiaoman, don't worry. In this Xian City, Uncle Guan still has a certain amount of power. I've already sent people to watch them. They can't escape. Seeing this, Yun Xiaoman was a little relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went back. They felt that someone was following them, but they didn't have the slightest intention to point it out. After 3 days, Guan Hongtian and the other two would definitely come to find them. They had to let them know the address. Beichen, did you really break that immortal pill furnace? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichen with some confusion in her eyes. The quality of the immortal pill furnace was very good. Previously, when the immortal pill furnace was in Di Beichen's hands, she didn't pay too much attention to it. However, based on Guan Hongtian and the other two's reactions, she wasn't sure if they were being framed. It's broken. How did you break it? They used a formation to destroy the internal structure. Di Beichen looked casual. This was what Hongzhuang liked. Since he couldn't get it, he couldn't let it fall into the hands of that annoying woman. Bailey Hongzhuang secretly admired him. If Senior Zhongli knew about this matter, she didn't know whether he would be happy or helpless. After all, Bei Chen's array skills were truly at the point of perfection. To be able to do this in such a short period of time was indeed very impressive. When the time comes, do you really plan to give the antidote to them? Di Beichen raised his smoky eyebrows. A faint smile appeared on his lips, like layers of pear blossoms. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. When the time comes, we'll see how it goes. With their personalities, it's impossible for them to obediently submit. It's unavoidable to spend some effort. Chapter 6501. Master, I think they must be blind, Xiaohei said. And they're not just blind, Xiaobai added. Guan Hongtian immediately sent for a doctor to examine the poison in Yun Xiaoman and Xiaohei. Dr. Su, is this poison easy to detoxify? Guan Hongtian asked with concern. With your medical skills, it should be easy to detoxify it, right? Dr. Su's face was full of confidence, as if he didn't care at all. Shopkeeper Guan, according to what you said, that woman is so young. Even if her medical skills are good, how good can they be? In my opinion, she should only be good at medicine in the lower realms. However, since the detoxification pill can't directly detoxify the poison, it can only be said that she has some ability. But in the chaotic immortal realm, that may not be the case. Guan Hongtian felt relieved when he heard the indifference in Dr. Su's voice. Dr. Su's medical skills were extremely outstanding in Xi'an City. Since he said it so casually, it should be easy to detoxify it. Yun Xiaoman immediately breathed a sigh of relief. After she was completely relieved, her words returned to their original arrogance. I knew it. That woman must be deliberately mystifying us, thinking that this kind of poison can completely frighten us. She said she would give us 3 days. I don't think we need 3 days at all. After a while we'll have to kill her. Although Guan Yi didn't say anything, his face was a little more relaxed. Previously he felt that his life was in the hands of others, so he was a little worried. Now he could finally rest assured. Dr. Su, why don't you take a look at my nephew first? Only when this poison is detoxified can we be completely at ease, Guan Hongtian said with a smile. Dr. Su nodded slightly. No problem. Let me take a look. Guan Yi immediately stretched out his hand. During this time he had been paying attention to the black line in the center of his hand. He vaguely felt that the black line was gradually spreading. Although the spreading speed wasn't fast and it didn't look obvious, he still felt that there were some changes. Just as Guan Hongtian and the others were casually waiting for the detoxification result, they found that Dr. Su's originally calm face was gradually becoming serious. For a long time, Dr. Su's hand was still on Guan Yi's hand. He frowned and his face was full of contemplation. Sometimes he couldn't help but sigh, as if he had encountered something incredible. Most importantly, his face was getting darker and darker. Dr. Su, is there something wrong with this situation? Guan Hongtian was a shrewd person. Just by observing Dr. Su's expression, he could tell that something was amiss. Moreover, the fact that he hadn't spoken for so long meant that the situation might be more complicated than they thought. Hearing this, Dr. Su withdrew his hand. He looked at Guan Hongtian with a complicated expression. There was a hint of awkwardness and uneasiness in his expression. At this moment, his heart was also extremely tormented. He incomparably regretted the boast he had made earlier. Manager Guan, this poison is indeed strange. I've never seen such a strange pulse before. As soon as he said that, Guan Yi and the other two's expressions changed. Their faces were filled with disbelief. For a moment, Yun Xiaoman even thought that she must have misheard. Dr. Su, what did you say? What does that mean? Chapter 6502. So that's how it is. Then it should only take some effort. Guan Hongtian quietly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they can still find a way, it means that there is a possibility of a solution. It's better than not having any ideas at all. Dr. Su, I wonder if this poison can be detoxified within 3 days? Guan Yi asked tentatively. Bailey Hongzhuang only gave them 3 days. If they can't detoxify it within these 3 days, then it means that they can only go to the door and beg for mercy. This is obviously something they are unwilling to do. Hearing this, Dr. Su's complexion changed a bit. He then said, Shopkeeper Guan, this poison is indeed a bit strange. I'm afraid the composition is not simple. Although I don't understand this poison, but I observed the poison thread in young Master Guan's hand. The other side also proposed 3 days. If I didn't guess wrong, this poison thread should be unspeakable. It should slowly go from the palm to the arm. After 3 days, that will be the time of death. So, I think it's best that you find a few more doctors. Maybe there are people who have come in contact with this poison before. It will be easier to deal with it. Even if he is unwilling to admit that the other side's poison skills are already very shocking, this matter is related to Guan Yi's life, so Dr. Su can only tell the truth. Even if he feels that it is possible to judge from this poison blood, but in fact he himself doesn't have much confidence. He himself has already lost so much face. If he finds 2 more people to take the fall, it won't be too embarrassing. However, when Dr. Su's words fell into the ears of Guan Hongtian and the other 2, it brought them too much shock. They don't dare to believe that everything Bailey Hongzhuang said is actually true. That woman. No wonder she was so confident in giving us 3 days. It turns out that she has already calculated everything. Guan Hongtian's mood at this moment is also very complicated. These 2 young people who don't seem to have any strength, he didn't expect their methods to completely exceed his expectations. Yun Xiaoman's face is ashen. Her hands gradually exert strength, the bones of her fingers are also somewhat white. She can't believe. That woman's methods are actually so superb. In fact, she is also an alchemist. This time, she went to buy an immortal pill furnace in order to learn how to refine immortal pills. The alchemy skills she has currently mastered are only from the lower planes. But facing this poison, she doesn't have the slightest method to detoxify it. Long before Dr. Su came, she had already examined herself. She only felt that this poison was extremely strange, beyond the scope of her usual understanding. He originally thought that it would be easy with the help of the celestial doctor. However, he did not expect that even the celestial doctor would be stumped. Guan Hongtian didn't waste any time and immediately went to invite other doctors. Even if it would cost a lot to hire these doctors, it would still be better than begging Bailey Hongzhuang for mercy. Because not only would he lose face, the other party would also take the opportunity to demand an exorbitant price. That night, the Guan family was very lively. At the same time, the news that the Guan family had invited many doctors quickly spread throughout Shiyun City. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang said those words, everyone was extremely curious. They didn't know if the poison was really that powerful. Because of that, many people were paying close attention to what would happen next. The next day, everyone's expression changed when they heard that the Guan family was still looking for a doctor. Chapter 6503. At first, I thought the woman was just joking. Maybe she would take this opportunity to run away. Now it seems that's not the case. So many doctors have gathered in the Guan residence, but they haven't left yet. This means that the poison hasn't been cured yet. That woman is so young, but her poison skills are so powerful? If all the doctors can't cure the poison, then this is going to be a good show. Most of the cultivators in Shiyun City were just watching the show. If the other party wasn't Guan Hongtian, perhaps they wouldn't have paid so much attention. However, everyone was very interested in this eye-catching person. When Ziran and the others found out about this, their faces were filled with astonishment. Hongzhuang and the others are really unusual. They've just arrived in the realm of chaotic immortals, and they've already caused such a big commotion. Ziran sighed and shook his head. It was a pity that they didn't participate in such a big event. Actually, I think that Hongzhuang and Beichen have the ability to attract hatred. Even if they don't cause trouble, someone will. Shangguan Yingying shrugged. Perhaps this was the trouble of geniuses? She had been training with Hongzhuang and the others for a long time. Most of the time, they didn't take the initiative to cause trouble. It was as if the other party had eyes in the back of their heads and would always cause trouble for them. Ah, you're right, Ziran chuckled. Just wait and see. Yunjue and the others will be very helpless when they find out. In fact, whether it was Mo Yunjue's group or by Li Yanche's group, they couldn't help but sigh when they heard the news. When Hongzhuang left the restaurant, she reminded them to be careful and not get into trouble. In the blink of an eye, they got into trouble first. Moreover, the other party was the famous Wanbao Pavilion. While the outside world was spreading the news, the people involved, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, were quietly staying in the room. If they went out now, they would definitely attract a lot of attention. Rather than that, they might as well cultivate here first. I originally wanted to exchange for some blood spirit stones, but now I don't need them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the blood spirit stone in her hand, and a smile appeared on her lips. Back in the abandoned immortal forest, blood spirit stones were a very rare resource. However, the elders had a lot of them, so it didn't affect their cultivation. Now that they were out, they would have to deal with the issue of cultivation resources themselves. My wife has always been resourceful. Di Beichen smiled faintly and handed the dessert to Bailey Hongzhuang. Try it. Bailey Hongzhuang took a piece of sparkling and translucent pastry, the sweet taste filling her mouth. Her eyes narrowed slightly, the corners of her lips hooked up in a happy arc. Not bad. Master, will they really send cultivation resources over when the time comes? Xiao Hei jumped on the table and quietly reached out her paw to take a piece of dessert. Isn't that obvious? Xiao Bai rolled her eyes. Mistress is so confident. Does it even need to be said? The doctors in Shiyun City definitely can't compare. That's not necessarily true. There will always be someone better than you. Bailey Hongzhuang looked thoughtful. In fact, the poison she used this time wasn't taught to her by Granny Hua. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.